and sources. And we are therefore seeing and appearing to experience a world that appears to be solid, that appears to be three-dimensional, but is actually holographic. And if you look at what holograms are that we actually can buy in the shops, they appear to be three-dimensional, but they're actually not. The base form of this reality, the base form of the body, the base form of everything in this reality is an information field. And we then decode the information from that into an apparently three-dimensional world, and a solid world, which, as quantum physics has absolutely shown to be the case, a solid world that cannot possibly be solid. Now, why is this important, Alex? It's because it's with this knowledge that those deep in the shadows, beyond the politicians, beyond the bankers, in the way that they operate the banking system, beyond the corporations.
Would you call them the visitors?
Well, beyond that which we can see, indeed, within the human world, beyond that we can see. I mean, the idea now among anyone with a brain on active duty that people who are apparently in power, like politicians and presidents and prime ministers, are actually the ones calling the shots is completely untenable and totally ludicrous. But what I'm saying is, beyond that, beyond what we see in the shadows, they know the nature of our reality. Therefore, they are using that knowledge against us.
Stay there. Your Skype's cutting up a bit, David. Excellent point. I'm going to come back and recap that and then ask the question, how are they understanding how the world really works, manipulating it, and towards what end? Because undoubtedly, all the subliminals, all the programming, the chemicals in the food and water to suppress our IQs, what's the end game? What's the reason? And then MIT came out 2 years ago. In fact, I ought to Google and find that article. We're showing a few new ones today, different universities saying basically the same thing, that there's an artificial power source holding it all artificially together, the dark matter, and the different dimensional equations that are out there. But regardless, it's good to think about big things and transcend the little globalists who want to wall us in to an even smaller reality. Everything they do is about dumbing people down, destroying their creativity, their imagination. And we can see this war accelerating, a desperate attempt to ridicule, questioning anything. So I think David Icke's very healthy in that he simply transcends their whole false debate. This is a short segment, long segment coming up. David, I've been researching this myself 25 years. I've been on air 20. And the deeper I research it, you just come to the realization, this isn't even good for the elites. As you said, the super puppets, the super class. When you get to the bottom of the rabbit hole, as far as I've gone, it's a hatred of life, a hatred of humans, a hatred of anything wholesome and good, and real sustainability. It's just blacker than hell. It is a spirit of evil. And if you're Christian, you say it's the devil. If you're a Hindu, I guess something similar. But the point is, it's real. And there seem to be people that are energized, possessed, running that program in their mind. And then you look at the research, and I've infiltrated Bohemian Grove, as you know. I've covered Skull and Bones. I mean, even an atheist would look at this and say, these people really believe they're getting divine information from dark entities that want human blood in every culture. And you've talked about that. You've written books about that. So regardless, from a sociology, anthropology perspective, why does this keep manifesting? And then you just go further, but then say so many other things that, I mean, you were the first person I heard 20 years ago talking about pedophiles running England. Now it's confirmed. Now they say national security can't investigate. I'm taking up your time here. It just blows me away. What are they trying to suppress? What reality are they trying to suppress? What's the end game, David Icke?
Right, I'm on the phone now. You can see.
Yes, it's crystal clear now. Thank you, sir.
Audio, yeah. Well, just from what you've kind of listed there, Alex, I mean, I could speak for like 2 hours because there's so many elements to it. But what you were talking about is summed up by a word I've used over and over the years, and that's inversion. We are living in an inversion, and therefore a world that could be about love, that could be about harmony, is inverted. So it's about hatred, it's about disharmony, or that's what this network, both seen and hidden, is trying to create. And so when you talk about these entities, which go under endless names. I mean, you know, one of the frustrating things, Alex, is when I hear people who follow various religions who say, you know, things that I say are a load of nonsense or it's anti their religion. They should read their religious books a bit more, because what some cultures refer to, and ancient cultures and peoples refer to as archons, i.e. non-human entities manipulating our world through these networks that we talk about and expose. So the Christians talk about demons, exactly the same thing. In the Islamic belief system, they talk about jinn, same thing. In Central America, shaman talk about the flyers, same thing. In the Zulu culture of South Africa, they talk about the Chitahuri, same thing. It's a universal theme. And what these entities, another universal theme, feed off is the energy of death and suffering. You know, when that's your energy source, what do you want to do? You want to create more and more of that energy source. So what happens? You create a society, a fake reality, a matrix that is designed, and a hierarchical structure of power and imposition that is designed to create maximum amounts of that energy.
Well said, DavidIcke.com.
So many wars.
We've got to go to break. I'm going to give you the floor when we come back. 18-minute segment coming up. We know the history we're given is not the real history of what's happened on this planet. The elites themselves are obsessed basically with what you see in the movie Prometheus. That's what MIT and Harvard, even the New York Times, the majority of their scientists believe that the planet was terraformed, that we were put here. The elites believe that they're another species from us. That's in the BBC and other major publications. This is what they believe. And then you've got David Icke, a top news presenter, making millions of pounds over the years, very successful, a shining star in the UK media, the head of the Green Party, and he basically, like I guess you could say, like Saul of Tarsus on the road to Damascus, gets knocked down, heat stroke, whatever you want to call it. I want him to talk about that briefly, and suddenly has all this information. And again, he didn't have a motive to do all this when he was already on top. He was ridiculed for a decade intensely. It was like the joke. He can tell you the story, but I followed it. And so regardless, he's got amazing courage, and so much of what he said, scientifically, politically, has come true. And I want to cover the waterfront, because it's hard to get David Icke on. He's a busy guy. Maybe he can stay a few minutes in the next hour, but that was a short segment, David. I want to give you the floor about what's at the bottom of the rabbit hole, and then tying it in. But you look at the environmental movement. It ignores genetic engineering. It ignores nuclear reactors, 90% leaking. A new one in the U.S. had an explosion, and they shut down a reactor. It's not even hardly news. The elite themselves don't care about the planet, but they have a predatory hatred of their fellow humans and are teaching us that human life is worthless, and teaching us not to stand up for each other, and teaching us this inverse. They say the star symbolizes a human, the head, 2 arms, 2 legs. The pentagram is a human upside down. But they're selling this, and I see this glare in people's eyes who've succumbed to this spirit of the world versus those of us that, not that I'm perfect, more and more are going towards love and freedom and compassion and being empowered. So I see an acceleration towards a paradox where there's a huge amount of people awake and intensifying their understanding, but also a large group of people that are going to get crazier and crazier and more turned over to this crazed spirit. David Icke, you've got the floor for the next 15 minutes.
Thanks, Alex. I wish I had made millions at the BBC. But
you were one of the top people in the country, according to mainline news articles.
I was on the television a lot, but millions, my goodness me. You used to wear BBC jackets, small checks, But anyway, what we're talking about here is, I would suggest, where the alternative media needs to start turning its head, because much of the alternative media, and I'm not knocking it, I mean, hold my hand up. Anyone who's putting out information that's suppressed and this network doesn't want out, round of applause, I say. But much of it is walking around the edge of the rabbit hole. It's not actually in it yet. So deep does it go. We have a situation where, to answer your question, and people say this all the time, why would they destroy the planet? Why would they have the Fukushimas? Why would they be filling our atmosphere with staggering millions and millions of times more radiation than there was 50 years ago? Why are they creating this, transformed radiation atmospheric reality? What about the chemtrails and their part in all this? What's going on? Why would they do this? Because we have to, I would suggest, face the fact that we are being manipulated, and this planet is being taken over. This reality of ours is being taken over by entities that operate beyond human sight, and human sight is so narrow, it's almost laughable, what scientists call visible light. It's a tiny, almost infinitesimal fraction of what there is to see. And because we, through these biological computers, can only see a certain, just ridiculously, I can't tell you, narrow frequency band, which we see as a visual world, it means that anything that is on a different frequency to that band, which is in effect everything else that exists, we can't see. And these entities and this force operates outside of most of the time, outside of our frequency band that we can actually see. But what it does, because it's an inversion of the natural order. The natural order is about love, it's about balance, it's about harmony. So what we have is an inversion of the natural order. That's their world. I mean, this is where the religions talk about, the hell and all that stuff. And what they're doing is seeking to change our world into theirs so they can take it over. And what they've done up to this point is create a network of hybrid interbreeding bloodlines that we call royalty, right back into history. Why were the royals, of all the cultures, claiming the right to rule? Because of their bloodline. Because it was the bloodlines, as they saw it, of the gods, which is how they perceived these entities. And then when the people started to reject over royal dictatorship, they went into the dark suits. They became the bankers, the major politicians. They became the corporate heads. They became the people that run our society, our world, both in the world that we can see and in the shadow.
Now, from your view, are they interdimensionally possessed, like the Bible would say, or are they actually genetically hybrids?
Well, both, for this reason. What we've got, as I mentioned earlier, what we've got to start to realize, if we're going to grasp this situation that we're facing, is what we see as a three-dimensional world, solid world, i.e. the body, is a projection, exactly what these scientists are talking about. It's a projection. It's a projection from the base form, which is the energetic field. Just as these pictures on a computer are a decoded representation of information in other forms within the computer. Therefore, what we are experiencing is a fake reality, because what we are experiencing as the three-dimensional world is not the place of